Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Johnson with Appulate. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Power webinar. This webinar is meant to be a little buffet of Appulate for everyone who is on the call today. We're going to be going through and talking about a little bit of Appulate 9.0, which is about to launch. We have Johnny Yarbrough on the call with us, who is from our MGA Carrier team. He's going to talk a little bit about markets. We also have Scott Pesserell on the call for us today. He is part of our Producer Connect Premium team. He's going to be talking about some best practices and common myths for the Appulate system. And then we have an industry insider session who is going to be led by Jeff Harris, our Appulate president, featuring a special guest. We have Justin Goodman from Total CSR. And they're going to be getting in an in-depth conversation on some industry insights. So with that being said, just a webinar logistic before we get started. All attendees have been muted upon entry. So if there are any questions, of course, we can definitely take them at the end of the webinar. Feel free to utilize that questions box of your webinar screen, and we can go ahead and answer those questions. So let's go through and get started here. There we go. All right, so just talking a little bit about today's agenda, which I had kind of gone through. So Appulate 9.0, we're gonna have a market review, best practices and common myths, as well as our industry insider session. So let's talk about Appulate 9.0. It is launching tomorrow, February 19th, and it's going to feature some additional features in the Appulate system, and here are some of those highlights. So we had many requests to be able to add custom sub-statuses to your submission. So you will now see custom sub-statuses available when you attend any of the Producer Connect trainings, which are hosted every week on Tuesday and Thursday. That is a new feature that I will be going over on those trainings. Next, we have an addition of quote parameters. So being able to set specific limits and deductibles from right within your market view of the screen. Again, I'll be going over that starting actually tomorrow in the Producer Connect training. So if you aren't signed up for our Producer Connect training, our webinar tomorrow, please sign up for that, and I will be going over, the new features that we're seeing here. Also, live APIs, the automatic quote generation that's available within the Appulate system. So for those markets that participate in that Appulate style submission, it's that live rate quote bind, seamless process. So having those live APIs allow the Appulate system and the carrier system to communicate to be able to provide you, the agent, with an instant bindable quote. We've also made some technical improvements for some better system efficiency. So you're going to see the system speed, be more enhanced. A few things on the back end that aren't quite seen on the front end for agents, but some improvements, of course, made there. So we're very excited about Appulate 9.0. You definitely won't want to miss the Producer Connect training that's going to be happening tomorrow, because I will be going over, of course, the new features within Appulate, as well as the Appulate system in its entirety. So with that being said, I'm going to now turn it over to Johnny Yarbrough. He's on our MGA Carrier team, and he will be going through his portion. So Johnny, over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, welcome everybody. I wanted to quickly talk about markets, because we're not the only ones that are excited about Appulate 9.0 and all the technology that Appulate is bringing to the table. Of course, carriers and MGAs are increasingly updating their technology, and that means that they're going to be utilizing Appulate more and more in coming years, and are currently right now. So I wanted to kind of go through a few of the ways that markets are doing this, how they're trying to connect with you as the agent in new and innovative ways, trying to figure out the best ways to bring technology to the table, and of course using Appulate to do that. So we're going to go over just a couple things real quick. So basically, what have carriers and MGAs learned from agents, and then why do those markets choose Appulate? So Sarah, go ahead and go to the next slide for me. So the first part of this really comes from some of the surveys that we've been doing. So both carriers and MGAs have been reaching out to agents, including Appulate agents, and internally we do an annual survey to get the best idea from you guys what is the most important to you, both from a technology perspective and what kind of things are you looking for directly from your market. So that's what this is here. This is the top 10 answers from our agents. The question was, what have carriers and MGAs, I'm sorry, what things are you looking for from your carriers and MGAs? And so these are the top 10. The ones with the stars next to it are things that Appulate solves right away. So a carrier or MGA is going to be very excited about that because it goes way beyond just having an automation technology on board. We're able to do a lot in our system, which Sarah, of course, is going to go over in that webinar in a lot more detail, but I'm going to go over just a few things here in just a second. But from this slide, we can see that these are the things that are most important to you. Fast quote turnaround, ability to quote online, instant quotes, multiple offers quotes, and automated process are those 5 in that top 10 that Appulate solves. So Sarah, if you would go to that next slide. Also, the other thing that we wanted to try to gauge is how much time is being wasted, and MGAs and carriers both understand this completely. They know this from their side, what takes a lot of time for them, but also from the agent's perspective, they want to be an easy market to work with. So we dug into this a little bit to try to figure out exactly how much time is being saved in our system using this technology, and of course, how much time is being wasted. So according to our users, automation saves at least 37 minutes per submission. This seems to be the average on a conservative side. And if that's true, that equals about 25 hours per month, which means that the average agency is losing about $7,000 a month or $85,000 a year, and that's per agent user. So every time an agent interacts with a market in Appulate, we're able to confidently say, hey, we're going to save you a lot of time, but also that's going to equal dollars. And with narrow margins and everything else that you have to be concerned about, this is something that we can easily take right off the table as a concern. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So of course, markets are noticing this. Carriers and MGAs both are noticing that there's a lot of this time that's being wasted. And so the answer to a lot of these problems is, of course, in Appulate. And this slide, we're going to talk a little bit about why markets choose Appulate rather than something else. A lot of carriers that you work with have their own portals, their own systems. Some larger MGAs do as well. And a lot of folks just say, hey, just email it to us and we'll take care of it. And that may seem very simple at first, but there's a whole lot of things that are happening between the time that you email an Accord form to an MGA or carrier or fill out a portal and actually getting that quote. So we're able to solve a lot of the problems in that middle part, which can take days and weeks worth of time. The first thing that we're able to solve right away is that we work with any agency management system or Accord form. So this is a huge thing that I would confidently say that 99% of the carriers and MGAs out there you work with, the systems that they have, if they're not using Appulate, are unable to really do a whole lot of this. You've got to go into their system, manually key it in, or key it into multiple places, or at a minimum, fill out a form and then send it in. So what we can do is consolidate all of that into one place. We're able to, within a couple clicks of a button, move data directly from those forms that you have filled out or directly from your systems right into Appulate. So of course, it saves a ton of time. And once that data is there, the carrier or MGA is able to utilize that data in creative ways to help get you pricing indications, lean on any kind of API integration that they have so that they can produce instant quotes, tell you exactly what kind of questions need to be answered, exactly if this is something that meets their appetite guide or not, and tell you all of this right on the front end. Also, it standardizes the whole process. So my second bullet point here, standardizing the portal for multiple markets, is a big deal. So instead of having to learn a bunch of different workflows and filling out multiple portals, you can go into Appulate, use this one system and learn it one time, understand exactly the way this workflow functions, and any market that's going to be working with Appulate is going to function within our workflow pretty close to one another rather than being completely different with every interaction that you have. Additionally, it's easier to find and submit to new markets. So in our system, by knowing right up front what kind of information that you need, whether or not it meets their appetite guide, is super important, because right away, if you're trying to figure out which one of these carriers or NGAs is going to write trucking risks in Wisconsin, you can immediately go into our system, input that data, and selecting the markets that are working with Appulate will allow you to know right away if those markets are working with those class codes or whatever kind of data you've entered. That's super important, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd be able to send that in to somebody and hopefully an underwriter gets back to you right away. But of course, that doesn't always happen. And there's probably a lot of questions that they're going to ask you. You don't always get a yes or no black and white answer in insurance. So in Appulate, you're able to upload that information, figure out exactly what they need, and within seconds, without any back and forth with that market, know exactly what they need and exactly if that's something that they're going to write. Also, it's easy to learn. So this is a big thing. And I know Sarah spends a lot of time doing these webinars. There's a lot of ways to learn how to use Appulate. We have a lot of stuff that goes up on our YouTube channel. We've got an internal training feature within our system. There's so many ways that you can learn our system. And I think currently it takes about 40 to 45 minutes to learn pretty much every tool within our system. So markets absolutely love this, because if it's easier for you to use the system, you're more inclined to submit. So they get a lot out of that. And if they can provide that to their agents, that's a huge value. So it's not just about time savings. It's about being able to completely streamline this process so that they can allocate the resources otherwise. So instead of having to do a lot of training, having to do a lot of back and forth, they can spend that time better serving your insurance, which is very important. And of course, the last thing I have on here is no more back and forth and automated underwriting, which we've talked about already, but this is such an important piece of this, because of course, this is something that we don't really think about a whole lot. Once you're inside of the system and you realize that you don't have to spend a lot of time calling back and forth, trying to get answers from different people and asking questions, we don't have to do any of that anymore. Everything can be right in the system and can be addressed in a matter of seconds. So Sarah, if you go to the next screen. So I want to do a quick audience poll. So you should see a poll, and the question is this: on a scale of 1 to 5, if your markets were available in Appulate, would you use, there we go, would you use the system more frequently? So obviously 1 is going to be no, 5 is absolutely, and this is of course to try to get an understanding for our markets. Hey, if you are available on this technology, if you can tell me exactly what I need right up front, if I'm able to use my agency management system, if those things are important to you, go ahead and throw a 5 on there. I'd love to kind of understand where you guys are at. Not everybody does the exact same thing, so this I think would be a very interesting thing to learn from the agents on this webinar. But aside from that, if anybody wants to contact me, they have a market that they want to work with Appulate, please do that. If you want some training or to understand a little bit more about the things I've talked about, please reach Sarah, and I'm sure she's going to have some methods to contact her at the end of this webinar. So thank you so much, and Sarah, back to you.
Well, thank you, Johnny. I really appreciate that. I'm sure everybody appreciates all the info that you shared with us today. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here in a few seconds. So if you have not answered the poll question, please feel free to do so now, and then I will close it out here in a second. Now, coming up next, we have Scott Pesserell from our Producer Connect team. He will be taking over. So I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to do a last call for any poll responses, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this out and give it over to Scott. All right. Thanks, everybody, for participating in that poll question. Now we're going to go ahead and give it over to Scott. So let's welcome Scott Pesserell from our Producer Connect team, and he's going to go ahead and talk about some best practices and common myths.
All right. Thanks very much, Sarah. Again, my name is Scott Pesserell here from the Producer Connect premium team, and I'm going to go over some of the best practices and common myths we sometimes see with Appulate. And with this, we're really looking at, obviously, we want to make sure that you're really utilizing the system to its full capacity. And we're actually going to get into the system to show how you actually can do this. So you can see that we have actually 5 different ways that we can do this. Is that one thing is we can really help generate loss runs for your prospects. So a component within Appulate is the ability to generate loss runs. And so I'm going to actually go right into Appulate here. And you can see down here is what I did is I clicked on our loss run area.
Oh,
and when
hang
you
on,
do
Scott,
that,
let me, I need to have you share your screen. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. There you go. Now you can go ahead and share.
Not a problem. There we go. All right. So now you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So again, I'm in Appulate here, and we want to make sure that we're looking to generate loss runs. Now, the loss run is a component within Appulate where you can not only generate loss runs on the behalf for your insureds, but did you know you can actually do it for your prospects? And the way I would do that, I would do the same way I would normally submit a loss run. So again, I clicked on the loss run area over here, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on this little envelope. And what that's going to do, it's actually going to generate that letter of authorization. So again, if it's for your insured, you're the corresponding agent, no problem getting those loss runs. So we have our insured's information up here. One nice thing here at Appulate, we've done the hard work for you. Is that if I click on this little pencil icon, you'll see all the different fax numbers and email addresses for the loss runs for the different departments at Travelers, which really saves you time. So again, Johnny did a great job of just explaining how much time Appulate can save you on an ongoing basis. And it's true, our agencies save anywhere from 37 to 40 minutes per submission, which is fantastic. Down here is the actual request that goes out. If I click on that little pencil icon again, to add additional periods, it's as easy as clicking on that little link here. And I can go ahead and put in the different policy numbers for the actual loss run request that's out here. And lastly, again, I would put in my email address because I'm the agent of record. I want that loss run to come to me. So that's how easy I can use it for generating loss runs for my current insureds. And I know some people, I can go to some websites, carrier websites and get it directly out here. We're giving you another alternative, but really where this function really comes into play is how I can do it for a prospect. So I'm going to do the same exact thing. Down here, I'm going to put in my prospect's information. I'll find out who their carrier is and the policy number and policy period. Now, again, what happens is once I hit send, that prospect is going to receive an email. And basically all they need to do is e-sign, which they can do right over their smartphone or a computer, to have that request sent to the carrier. So I no longer have to have that prospect go back to their current agent to get a copy of those loss runs. I can now do it on their behalf through Appulate, which is a huge value. I can't tell you, before I came to Appulate, I worked in an agency for 15 years, been a producer, been an account manager. I can't tell you how many accounts I probably lost out on because I, again, have a prospect they're interested. I need to go ahead and have them, in order to get the submission going, I need a copy of the loss runs. I need to send them back to their current agent. And again, if that agent is worth anything, they're going to try to save that account. I would do the same thing. But now you have someone interested, hey, I don't need to worry about that. I can do it right here within Appulate, which is a huge, huge value for you. We're going to stay in the system here and just show you a few more features real quickly here. One of our most interesting components is our web link feature. Now, hopefully everybody has come to know this, but this is our web link technology where it's really going to save you a bunch of time. Now, you're going to see that's kind of an over and over message that we send out. But if I would go ahead and click on submit here, what it's going to do, it's going to bring me directly to the carrier's website. And again, it'll log me in with my credentials. And once I do that, the loss or the web link feature fills in all that information that was on those accords. So as Johnny mentioned, one of the valuable things that Appulate offers is we're able to get the information from your accords, from your agency management into the system. And now you're seeing it, how it really impacts. It really shows you that time-saving capabilities of Appulate, where the system pre-filled in all this information for me. And again, all I need to do is click on the next feature or the continue button down here, and go through this website and go through AM Trust here and answer just AM Trust specific questions. That's how we're saving all this time going forward. And what's nice about our web link technology is, again, we have quite a few carriers already set up with this, but if you are looking to add some additional carriers, maybe you're dealing with some regional carriers that you deal with on an ongoing basis, we have the ability to create these web links for you at no additional charge. And so that's one of the nice things that we're offering for you. Again, if you're interested, you just go ahead and call up your PCP rep. We can go ahead and get those different carriers in there. What we need is we need a username and a password for that agent site. And we can go ahead and begin that process for you. And again, at that time, we'll determine the time frame, which we can roll that out to you. But it's a really nice feature for you. You can see how it's going to save you a bunch of time going forward with the web link. And again, we can do that at no additional charge for you. So that's another way that you can go ahead and actually a best practice that we do have. And again, the third and final way, real quickly here, is our emailing capabilities. So I have this carrier in here to demonstrate how you actually can email information out. If I click on submit, it's actually going to bring over, again, our email submission capability, but I want to really focus in on the ability to block the market. Commercial lines, we're always looking to, obviously, we work so hard to obtain that business that we currently have on the books. We want to make sure that that underwriter gets that submission first before anybody else has a chance to possibly take it over. So within Appulate here, you have this scheduling feature. So again, it kind of looks like a little clock icon where I would put in my underwriter's name here, attach all the information. You can see it automatically brings over the information that was uploaded through our uplink technology. I can attach additional information, maybe be it a supplemental, maybe be a photo, whatever you think the underwriter would need for this submission. If I click on that little clock icon, now I can schedule it out. So it's always great to work proactively. Maybe I want to send out this submission 90, 120 days in advance. So again, I make sure that that's the first one in their inbox. And I can easily click on the little calendar that'll allow me to pick a date and time that submission is sent. So those are just a few of the examples. Kind of hopefully we whet your appetite to not only hopefully show you that ways that to make sure that you're utilizing the Appulate system, but if there's any people on the call here that are interested in learning more, maybe you're not a subscriber yet, we'd be more than happy to run a product demo for you or a product tour and show you all these different time-saving features that the system does have that you can hopefully, again, make sure that you're utilizing to its full capabilities. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it back to Sarah, and I think we have let's see here, we have a survey that we're going to have there. It looks like Sarah took it over, and she's going to go ahead and throw up a survey to just kind of get a feel for how much time people use, or how many times do you use Appulate for the week. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll throw it back to Sarah.
Yeah, let me go ahead and give me just 1 second. I'm going to share we have an audience poll. Sorry, technical difficulties. Give me just 1 second. It looks like for some reason we might be having a technical difficulty with this last polling question, so I do apologize. We may not be able to launch this second poll. So Scott, I'm really sorry. I'm not sure why the second poll isn't showing up as an option. But this is, something I want everybody to think about. How many times realistically do you use Appulate per week? Where can improvements be made to improve your efficiency utilizing Appulate? So for those who, do have any questions surrounding that, I will be throwing up contact information towards the end of the webinar for our sales team, as well as any of the training, and then Johnny's information as well. So again, I apologize that we're unable to launch this second polling question, but let's go ahead and kind of move on now. All right, so now I want to introduce our industry insider session. We have Jeff Harris, our co-founder of Appulate and president, on the phone with us today, as well as Justin Goodman from Total CSR. Thank you both so much for being here. And at this point, I would like to turn it over to you guys. So let's go ahead and turn it over to Jeff and Justin.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Harris with Appulate. Thanks for having me. Always fun to be a part of these, and great to see everyone on our webinar this afternoon. My good buddy Justin and I have frequent conversations about the status of the industry, and we thought we'd kind of share one with you today. So, Justin, hopefully you can hear me and you're able to participate.
I can hear you loud and clearly. Excited to be here.
Awesome. So I'll throw out, the typical kind of question that I would ask you, but we're as you can see by our handsome pictures, we're of similar age, and so we've been in this industry for about the same period of time, which is now more than 20 years. So what's the big difference that you see in the industry from back in the year 2000 versus that of today here in 2020?
So it's everything and nothing at the same time. So I'll take it back to when we first met, and I was trying to solve my own supplemental application nightmares. And I had created an Excel document to try and merge all my numerous supplemental applications because no one had come up with what you guys had done yet. And then you came along and solved that problem and many more for our agency. Back then, so much of what we were doing, technology, we considered ourselves advanced if we were faxing submissions into carriers. We considered ourselves advanced if I could try and mail merge within the organization. If we found a way to start the process of going paperless. Now everybody is paperless, and the mindset has shifted. The insurance companies were unwilling to work to make the agent's life easier by leveraging technology versus their outdated systems. And now you see AM Best comes out and says, hey, we're going to harm your financial rating if you're not investing in technology. And so there's been this drastic shift in how we are doing things. Now, how things are the same, I still have a relationship business. My clients, I have a separate agency. That's how we met. So I have an agency that specializes in construction in California, and I still interact with my clients very much face to face. Now, a lot of times the servicing side is done by email versus not as much phone conversations, but I've still really put in a strong emphasis on having that relationship with the customer, and I don't think that'll change. In fact, I think we are leveraging technology to better enable relationships, and I think that's one of the things Appulate does a great job at. When Appulate can save the time of that CSR account manager from having to do all those laborious processes, it frees them up to use critical thinking skills and do the job that the consumer wants from an insurance professional, which is advising them how to insure for a risk, and if it's an uninsurable risk, how to take steps to mitigate losses in general. And so technology has come a long way. The only thing I would say is I see an issue with so much InsurTech out there that it is very hard for agencies to really piece through what is of value, what applies directly to them. And so that's become a new challenge. There's almost so much noise. We don't know where to start. We're like a kid in a candy store. And so it's been a challenge that I'm hearing frequently these days.
Yeah, it's well said, right? I mean, this is a relationship business. I think if you're only leaning on technology, you're doing kind of disservice to your clients and customers. At the same time, if you're not leaning on technology, you're going to probably kind of die on the vine, right?
Yeah, and I think one of those things, and I've been really curious for your take on this, because It's something that's been in the news a lot lately, and it's a frequent source of discussion amongst the agents I talk to, is really the acquisition of ApplyNet purchasing Indio, right? Indio is a technology that's out there. They've now been acquired. Agents are looking for an alternative, and they do have another competitor out there, but I was hoping to kind of get your view. I know a lot of what Appulate does, but for those that want to understand the differences that, or maybe the problems that Appulate can solve that Indio is solving, but you kind of find a whole different value set when you get Appulate, because there's a whole bunch of, and then you get this and this and this. Have you thought about this at all, and could you kind of articulate what those differences are, or those similarities of the problems that you guys are solving that Indio was? Because I frequently get asked this question, and I don't have the best way of explaining it in my layperson's terms.
Well, I think first off, competition is a good thing, right? It drives us all to be better at what we do. And for many years, Appulate was kind of on its island, right? We kind of had our own solution that really hadn't been replicated. So obviously, you're right. Now there are some other organizations that are doing certain things that Appulate does. I think where Appulate it is different is that we take the process far deeper into the submission and quoting process. I think most of our competitors don't do that. They're more about data collection just between the insured and agent, which is an important problem to solve. Obviously, we solve that problem as well, but then we kind of can take that data a little further. Yeah, the one thing that is interesting about the Indio you mentioned, I've heard at least from some of our customers about what their price tag is, and it's just mind-boggling how much they're charging for their product. We really have worked hard to make Appulate align to the needs of the independent agent, and I think we get a lot of kudos from our customers for bringing high value for the price tag. So I'm always whenever these businesses get acquired by larger companies, usually that means prices are even going up from there. So that's my thought.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that just I can say is that when we leverage your system, what I know is I know exactly how it works from the get-go, and I can learn very quickly how all of the pieces fit together. I don't need an extended implementation period that my entire team needs to learn. I can learn it in 40 minutes, right? I can do that fairly quickly. That is not the case with some of these other systems. And then part of the allure of these systems is that they integrate with certain agency management systems, but then you find out that said integration comes with an additional few $1,000 price tag, and that if not for this additional fee, you can't integrate and it can't do what you want it to do. And so I think a lot of people, as they try and navigate through this, it's important to realize that you may end up getting to the implementation part, and if you haven't asked those questions, is there anything else that's needed for the technology to work, then you may be a little upset at the tail end of some of these discussions. So yeah, I'm just always curious with this, and especially with the space you guys have played in. What I've seen with Appulate has been the desire, and this goes way back when I was throwing stuff at the wall at you, because I said, if you solve this problem for me, can you solve this, that, and the other, is you guys have just put an effort as, we want to provide a reasonable cost for a product and solve as many problems for that cost as possible, versus going and charging separately for each of these products across the board, which if anybody else was out there doing, they'd have a standalone product and they might all each cost what your entire package or your entire suite costs. And what I've loved about that is you guys throughout the organization's history have always said, we want access for the every man, every woman, independent agent out there. Yes, we would love large organizations, but this was solved with the independent agent in mind, which most independent agents across the country are 5 to 10 employees. and they're not going to be able to sustain a $10,000, $15,000 price tag for a product like Appulate.
So, I mean, you obviously have an incredible background because you are in the business yourself. But I think what you're known today for so much more is a thought leader because of your extensive knowledge and experience in training agents and CSRs to do their jobs better. And you've created this leading, training platform. So I'm curious. I mean, why is it important for people in the industry to kind of stay up on technology and specifically? I mean, we talked about it, but specifically insurance technology. I mean, why is this important in today's industry?
I think so my agency hat, I'll throw that one on because number one, if you're not leveraging it and your competitor is, the speed that they're going to be able to deliver services to customers or the experience they're going to be able to provide is going to be a differentiator when so many things, especially from carriers these days, they're all doing such a better job at servicing. They've put an emphasis on that. Your differentiator is going to either be your speed or your customer experience. And that's if you're not paying attention to these technologies that are out there, somebody else is going to beat you in speed or customer experience, and that's going to impact retention.
Interesting. Yeah, that it makes a lot of sense.
So, I know when we started out many years ago, we didn't know what the world was going to look like today, obviously, and I couldn't have predicted then. But given all the interactions that you're having now with the tech companies, the insurance companies, and just, I know you're very involved in InsurTech Connect, well, we got InsurTech Connect, but just InsurTech conferences in general, you guys have a presence, you're talking to all these people. Where do you see this going? What does the independent agency look like if technology continues to develop at this pace? Do you have some thoughts of that looking forward, where myself, not even having a programming mind, can't see past what is currently been developed? Have you guys given any thought to that? Do you see any trends that you anticipate going forward?
Well, you and I, we're not the young guys in the industry anymore, right? And sure, we grew up playing Nintendos and had some rudimentary computers, but the folks that are joining the industry now, and even those that have been in the industry for 5-10 years, they grew up in a totally different world than you and I did. Have, and it's the next generation, and they come with such an extensive knowledge and appreciation for technology, and I think that's been the real game changer for the industry. I mean, look at what you do today. If you had gone to an agency principal 20 years ago and suggested that you could provide a comprehensive training program to CSRs on their computer, they would have laughed you out of the room, right? They would have said, no, this needs to be done in person, face to face. Today, most training is done online, and it's done extraordinarily well. And so I think that's just one example. But this is an industry that's going to continue to see automation, and it's exciting and it's interesting, and so many are embracing it. And I think that in this industry, because there's a lot of really sharp people now in these roles that are motivated to try to do their job in the best way possible, they're embracing technology more than ever before. Obviously, as you said, it's a relationship business, and I hope we don't ever lose sight of that. But at the same time, there are some proven capabilities out there now that are really making the day-to-day tasks a lot easier on really all stakeholders in this industry.
Yeah, definitely. And just out of curiosity, though, one of the things, and we haven't talked about this in a while, but I have brought this up to Vanessa in the past, is this workforce that we're seeing and remote workforces. This technology is enabling people to work off-site like never before, and I think your organization is one of those that has really flourished, leveraging people working from all across the country and in some cases across the world. For those of us like me who are apprehensive in that area, has Appulate ever thought about putting together a webinar on how to effectively do that for your agents? Because it is something we are facing more and more, and we have a fear point about what that would look like if I had somebody in Tennessee working for me, and I'm not even sure how to manage that person. Is that something you've given any thought to? Just because you guys, I do know how well you train your own staff as well, and since that is how you guys run that, is that something you guys have kicked around at all?
A virtual workforce has been a huge key to our success, as you know, Justin, and so yeah, I think we're going to probably start to share that with the the industry at large at some point here soon. We do get a lot of requests for that, and it's something that more and more organizations can and should begin to take advantage of, just because technology allows us to connect in such a way where being in an office may or may not be the future of our workday. So yeah, love to share that at some point. Maybe we'll host that in the spring or summertime.
Awesome.
So okay, I'll take one more question of you, and then we can wrap it up. But you've asked me kind of what the future looks like, but how about you? I mean, from your standpoint, we talked about where it was in 2000, where we are today in 2020. What about 20 years from now? Where is this industry in 2030?
So, as far as my small brain can figure out, if the carriers are smart, they will continue down the path that they've gone down, and the agents will become more proactive advisors than ever before. So the agent of the future, and where I see our industry, is really those that are spending the time actually educating themselves on the impact of technology on risk, and being able to advise clients accordingly, and being able to really settle into this professional advisor role where we aren't now. I think we'll be leveraging a lot of additional technologies and reference point. I think data and information is becoming commoditized. So the fact that I have memorized lots of policy forms and can recite them off the top of my head is great. But now that I can instantly pull them up, share them, screenshot, and we have Google as a tool as well, that becomes less valuable. And so I have to find other ways to take complex information and simplify it for the insured so they can take action. So that's where I see our industry going, is we become even more valuable if we can take complex data, complex information, advise our clients, allow them to protect themselves in a more comprehensive manner. And hopefully Appulate can keep solving all of my problems, so then I have less headaches. Again, the more automation that I have, the more I can do, and I can put into my marketing budget and grow my agency, and and provide those other value-added services, and take that bucket of money that was reserved for overhead and put it to some better uses. And so that's where I see us going.
Hey, it's fun to pick your brain. Thanks for being our guest, Justin.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sarah, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff and Justin. That was an awesome session. I think we all learned a lot. It's really awesome to hear from industry insiders and continue to have these conversations. And on that note, I actually want to bring up our next slide now. So this is to everybody that's on the call. If you want to continue being part of these very important conversations, especially with these industry insiders, we would love to invite you and have you to our Appulate Connect conferences. We have 2 of them. They're kind of geared either more specifically to the carriers, brokers, or MGAs, or those who are agents, producers, CSRs, so on and so forth. So the next one we have coming up is going to be in Los Angeles. That is our Appulate Connect MGA Carrier Conference. on March 24th, 25th, just coming up next month. And then our next one is our Appulate Connect Agent Day, which is going to be, of course, geared towards agents, producers, CSRs. That is going to be hosted in Scottsdale, Arizona on July 16th. I do have the web addresses for both of these. The registration is going to be closing for our Appulate Connect, our March event, here coming up very soon. Also, spots are limited for both of these events, so you will want to make sure that you are, saving your spot for these events. Please come be part of these important conversations. I know Jeff, of course, is going to be there. Justin's going to be there. Vanessa, Johnny, Scott, everybody who's been on the call today. We will all be at these events, and we would love to have you there with us. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up for questions at this time, but I want to throw up our thank you slide because it does have some important contact emails and web addresses for us. A big one I want to point out is our webinars web address. That's just appulate.com/webinars. We're going to be having an important training tomorrow for our Producer Connect training. I will be going over, of course, the Appulate 9.0 features. We do have the training webinars for Producer Connect every Tuesday and Thursday. So now let's go ahead and open it up for questions. I think we already have quite a few folks that have asked some questions, so I am going to start kind of going down the list, so bear with me just 1 second. So we had a question on if I have a larger account and only need to submit the account to carriers, how would Appulate save me time? Well, Appulate, especially utilizing our uplink tool, which is just a simple print driver that's free for you to download directly within the Appulate system, really that's going to eliminate the need to rekey any unnecessary data. So if you have a larger account and you have your record forms filled out, you can bridge that information from your record form directly within the Appulate system. However, I also want to say that you do not have to have record forms to use the Appulate system. You may also start directly within Appulate. And it's going to save you additional time when you need to submit to multiple carriers because you're not having to rekey any of that duplicate data over and over again. An additional plus would be the live APIs that are available within Appulate. Of course, the individual, things about your account, even larger accounts sometimes can be, quoted through the APIs, but it's really all going to depend on the risk characteristics. But having those live APIs available within Appulate, if your submission checks out, the system may be able to provide you with an instant bindable quote kind of, right then and there. An additional portion to this question is different, how is this different from Transact Now? Give me just 1 second. There's a question about how often is Appulate down? I would say in the almost 2 years I've been with Appulate, it's never been down. And I was an agent before I started working with Appulate. So I also worked in AMS 360, so I'm very familiar with Transact Now. Yes, it was down all the time, and it was a lot of a huge headache. And I remember just getting so frustrated all the time, and you don't have that with Appulate. It's an entirely separate piece, from your agency management system. It is a quote and submission management system. So I can kind of truly attest to the fact that, we don't have those down experiences, maybe every once in a while, but like I said, I've been with Appulate for almost 2 years and have not experienced the system being down. I'm going to go ahead and continue with our questions, so hang on just 1 second there. We have Stacey, who's one of our power users, on the call with us today. So Stacey, thank you for a lot of your comments that you have in here. If you want, I'm happy to unmute you if you want to kind of say a little blurb. Just go ahead and enter into the chat, and I'm happy to unmute you. All right, Stacey, hang on just 1 second. I'm going to Unmute you. Oh, Stacey, I don't think you entered in your audio pin. So unfortunately, I may not be able to unmute you. But I do have, some comments in here from Stacey that I do want to bring out. Now, Stacey is a power user of Appulate. She has been using the Appulate system for quite some time. She is, a agent champion for the system. So, Stacey, thank you so much for being on this today. Sorry, it looks like I can't unmute you because your audio pin isn't in here. There's a question on, do we have a list of carriers of whom we can get an instant quote from? When you're just getting started with an Appulate, I do recommend that you look at our market directory, as it is going to be able to provide you with, information in regards to the different markets we have available. I don't have that web address on here, but I will go to that screen. Hang on just a second, and I will show you where to find that. I want to address one question before I leave this particular screen and go to the market directory. So hang on just 1 second. There is a question about learning more in regards to the system. If you are an agent on the call with us today, go ahead and email sales@appulate.com. You will want to reach out to our sales team, and they can, of course, reach out to you. Also, if you would like to participate in one of the webinars, so any of the training webinars, which will provide you, of course, more information about Appulate, go ahead and visit appulate.com/webinars. And I will be going over all of the intricacies, in the training with an Appulate. So, how the system works from start to finish, how to obtain loss runs, the live APIs, so on and so forth. I will talk about the differences between Producer Connect Premium and Producer Connect Standard. And then from there, if you are an agent who decides that Producer Connect Premium might be more your avenue, definitely reach out to our sales team. That email address, of course, being sales@appulate.com. I do want to pull up our market directory, so hang on with me just 1 second. So if you go to appulate.com/market directory, you will get this particular dashboard screen. We have an overview of Appulate, which auto-populates. This is going to tell you, in a nutshell, what Appulate is if you're, you decide not to be part of one of the webinars, as well as the different submission types available within Appulate. From the drop-down menu, there is a list of all of the different lines of business. So you can break it down by line of business. I'm going to go ahead and take a look, kind of add that workers' comp section, and just kind of show you that the system, will tell you these are the particular carriers that are available. This is how they participate, whether they're an open brokerage, kind of so on and so forth. So definitely take a look at the market directory, and it will be able to provide you with some additional information regarding markets. I also go over markets during our training. So please, again, feel free to register for the Producer Connect training that's available. We have an on-demand version if you're not able to attend any of the live versions. We also have, of course, the live versions, and I'll go ahead and show you that screen now. So it's just appulate.com/webinars. The very first one that you see will be that on-demand sessions. You can watch that as many times as you like. But our next live session is going to be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific. Feel free to join as many of these as you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and do a last call for any questions. Alrighty, well, if there are no additional questions today, I really want to thank everybody being part of this power webinar. I really hope it was insightful for everyone and gave everyone a little bit of a buffet, just a taste of, of Appulate, and everybody enjoyed the industry session. So again, thank you all so much for your time, and you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.